Hey guys, Alvin here, and welcome to the very first episode of my track theory videos. Now, in the coming up weeks, I'll start to upload more track theory videos, and on those videos, I'll include all of the theories that I've learned from karting or from my sim racing experiences, and I'll go deep into each section and give you some tips and my thoughts on them, and hopefully, they will help you to become a better driver in sim racing or even in real life races. So, without any further ado, let's crack straight on to today's episode. Now, since this is the very first episode of my track theory videos, I thought I would explain something that I first learned in karting. Something that is very basic, but a lot of people ignored how important it is, and that is the brakes. Now, I know that lots of people think that the very first thing they learn when you get into racing or sim racing is to learn the racing line, how to place your cars, and etc. It should be important, and it's not wrong. It is very important, and it is indeed the basic that you need to learn when you start getting into racing or sim racing. But a lot of people tend to forget how important the brakes are, no matter in terms of pace or in terms of safety, and it tend to cause a lot of problems throughout races. So coming up in this video, I'll put all of the common mistakes in point and I'll explain them in detail on how you can do it better and to use your brakes to maximize your safety or even your pace throughout the race. But before we dive in and take a look on the common mistakes that people tend to make on braking, I think you need to get an understanding on how the brakes works on cars so that you can have a better understanding on how to use the brakes properly. Now, I won't go into details on how the brakes works because I'm no engineer, but basically how the brakes works is to use the friction between the brake pad and the brake disc. The braking fluid transfer the force to the brake pad and squeeze against the brake disc to reach the effect of slowing the wheel down, which ultimately slows the cars down. But because brake power are applied to each individual wheel, which means that depending on the force that you apply to the brakes, the car will react differently due to the different force applied to different wheels, in which creates sort of like a differential effect which will affect the car's momentum. Also, due to the law of centripetal force, the car's weight will also be transferred in course of the time braking between the front and the rear axle. Now you know that the brakes are actually related to the car's momentum control. So let's get into some common mistakes that people make on braking, and I'll give you some tips and my thought on how to improve such situations. So first, we'll start with the obvious one, the on and off brake. Now take a look on an onboard comparison between me and my brother in the same race. And as you can see here, my brother clearly suffers from the on and off brake issue in this clip. And this is me using the trail braking technique into the corner. Now if I put these two clips back together, you see how much the braking affects your cornering speed. And that is because trail braking doesn't just use the brakes to slow the car down. At the same time, because you're turning into the corner, it creates more friction onto the ground and it slows the car down even more, which makes your brakes even more effective. And that brings me nicely to the second point of this video, which is not slowing the car down properly before the corner entrance. And for this point, I'll be using the same video clip of my brother and me on the same circuit. Now if you take a closer look on the onboard camera here, you'll see that I actually brake slightly earlier and also have a lower corner entry speed compared to my brother. But because I take an entry speed, that means that I can pick up the throttle earlier, which means I can have a better corner exit speed. Now bear in mind that it is always easier to adjust the car on the corner exits rather than corner entrance. If you have pushed too much on corner exits, it is always okay to back off and just get the car back in momentum. While on braking zones, if you have outbraked yourself, it is difficult to keep your car on the line and keep up the momentum. So always remind yourself that you should slow down before you enter into the corner, sacrifice your entrance speed, give it a bit more for the exit speed. It often gives you good results. Now the last point of this video is more or less a misconception for a lot of people who are in racing or sim racing, is that the harder you brake doesn't mean that the quicker you stop. Now, before you start to fire at me in the comment section for me being misconcept about the braking works, let me explain a little bit. Now, normally, the harder you brake, the more force you apply to the brake pedals. That means more friction will be created between the brake disc and the brake pad, and the quicker you stop. But that is only under the condition of the wheel having absolute grip to the ground. And that is why we created anti-lock braking system, which is known as ABS, on different cars. But because anti-lock braking system is a safety device, it will never go over the limit, so it will stay within a safe area to prevent the wheel from locking. That means that there are still some potential from the tire that is not being fully used. That's why always applying 100% brake force, it will always increase the braking distance. And I'll prove it with some more onboard videos. This is an onboard footage from an online race of me racing against a Porsche behind me. And as you can see in this onboard video, the Porsche is trail braking, but he's always applying 100% brake power on his initial braking. Now you take a look on my onboard camera, you can see that I am also trail braking into both of the corners, but the difference is that for initial braking, I don't apply full braking force into the car to prevent locking the wheels and running wide. Now I put both on board alongside each other and have a side-by-side comparison, and you can see that I am actually carrying more speed into the corner than the Porsche, and that is because the Porsche is using more brake power. That means that the brake will lock his front wheels, that will slow him down even more and also stop him from turning. That means that understeer will occur and he will have to slow down the car even more in order to get the car to turn in. Now, the best way to solve these kind of problems is to practice without the ABS on the car. Now, I personally do this, and this is very effective because it allows you to feel a little bit more on your car, and also the car reminds you when you have made a mistake. So that is all I have for today's track theory video then. I hope you enjoyed this video. It took me quite a long time to edit it, but I think it's worth it. So if you did enjoy this video, please click on that thumbs up button. If you want to see more of my content, then please consider to subscribe to my channel. And until then, I'll see you in my next video. Take care and goodbye.